So orthodontics is a very popular specialty, so popular that not everyone gets in on the first try. But stay with me and watch this episode as we talk to a doc who just got into ortho on her first attempt, on her first cycle, and applying to ortho. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, a new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dental school, getting into dental residency, and then life as a new dentist. Guys, be sure that you are staying subscribed, but also if you find value in any of the information that you're hearing today, please comment down below. And then also hit that like button and feel free to share. Sharing is caring, especially as it relates to information. Also, this episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by GetIntoDentalResidency.com. GetIntoDentalResidency.com. That's right, you can do it. And you can do it this application cycle. I have some actual information for you that we created to help you get into your dream residency this application cycle. Information related to your personal statement and your CV, or if you need help getting into residency via your interviews, because we know the next step is your interviews, right? And then also how, tips and strategies on how to close out your interview, but also get prepared to rank your programs. And Dr. Beatrice, who's joined with us today, is going to share a little bit about some of her successful actions as well. So for more information, go down below, GetIntoDentalResidency.com. GetIntoDentalResidency.com. So today is a start for our guest who is just starting her ortho residency program. It's been about a week. Today we're joined with Dr. Beatrice Williams, who is an ortho resident now. Congratulations, Doc.
Thank you. And I'm so grateful that UNC, we don't start till August 12th. So I'm
wow. Feeling like a villain when everybody else is grinding it out deep in that profit book, right? The ortho profit book. I'm sure they're already a couple chapters in. So please introduce yourself so everybody knows who are meeting you for the first time.
Hello, everyone. I'm Beatrice Williams. I'm a first generation immigrant from Ghana, first generation college student, graduate student, first gen doctor. After immigrating from Ghana, our family settled in Northern Virginia. And then I came to UNC for undergrad as a Carolina Covenant Scholar. And so I stayed there for undergrad, dental school, and now I'm about to come back for round 3 for ortho residency.
Awesome. What part of Northern Virginia? Where in Northern Virginia?
Woodbridge. So Prince William County, Manassas area.
Yep. I went to school at UVA. Used to drive through Northern Virginia all the time to get down to Charlottesville. So, yep, I know exactly. I had a couple classmates from dental school and from undergrad that from the Woodbridge area. So, yep, I know exactly where you're from.
Nova.
All right, so let's jump in because we have a very detailed episode, and I want everybody to, again, you guys make sure you got your notepads and your pen and ready to listen. And you will have this for you to watch over and over again. But this is a question that we usually ask everybody. Why dentistry? Why did you pick dentistry?
Yes. Okay. So as a first-gen immigrant, my parents always told me that either you're going to be a physician or you're going to be a lawyer, and that's it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I like sciences. I'll just be a physician. And so I went into UNC thinking I was going to be pre-med, did all the prerequisites. And then when it came time to shadow a physician, I just realized that just wasn't compatible with me and the lifestyle that I wanted and how I wanted to live my day-to-day. And so someone told me, well, have you thought about dentistry? And I said, no, there's no Grey's Anatomy about dentistry. Everyone hates going to the dentist. Literally nobody cares. But I ended up doing the SMDEP program at Columbia. So I originally applied pre-med, and at the last minute I switched to pre-dental. And so I was a pre-dental student doing SMDEP program at Columbia, where I got to see every specialty super hands-on, and I fell in love. And so I came back to school that same year and I applied to dental school and I became pre-dental. So yeah.
Gotcha. That's great. Tell everybody what that SMDEP program is, in case the people may not have heard of it before.
So yeah, I believe it has a new name now. I think it's SHPEP. And basically it's for underclassmen, so freshman, sophomore year, to go explore all the different medical and dental fields. So there's different sites all over the country. I chose Columbia, but you can go West Coast, East Coast, North, South, it doesn't matter. And it's an enrichment program. So you get some of the didactic work that you would get in order to help you with that prerequisite course load. And then you also get to meet other pre-health students around the country, and you get great hands-on experience that's not already available to everybody.
Yeah, it's a great program. Great pathway for many people who are exploring healthcare careers as well. So also, as part of that exploration, after or during some time of your time in dental school, you started exploring some specialties, and looks like you found one that you're really interested in. So why ortho? Why did you decide on ortho?
That's a great question. So I always told myself going into dental school, I was going to be open-minded. I was going to take it all in. I wasn't going to go in saying, oh, I'm going to be an oral surgeon, I'm going to be an orthodontist. I just wanted to take everything that I had available to me. Luckily, I was at UNC where we had all the recognized specialties. So I had the opportunity to take everything in. And so I sat through each specialty. I was in each clinic. I was like, And when I got to ortho, that's just when it clicked. I was so intellectually stimulated by orthodontics. I'm such a planner. I'm so type A, and I love the idea of literally planning 2 years in advance. And it just kind of went well with my personality and the way that I thought and the way that I wanted to live my life. And I never thought about this until I started thinking about residency. I got braces when I was in the 3rd grade. And as a 3rd grader, that was where I spent most of my time aside from being at school. And so the orthodontist office was a safe space for me. And as someone who grew up their entire life 200% below the poverty line, I was so grateful to be in a place where they didn't discriminate against me based off of my income, my race, my age, being like the youngest person in there. And I wanted to be that provider for the next generation to come. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great story as to why ortho. So now let's dive into the preparation for the application, or pretty much just how you prepared for it. So let's talk a little bit about that. At what point did you start, when you realized it was ortho, how did you start that process of preparing your application? Because I'm sure you didn't wait completely until your D4 year.
No. So like I said, I was in all the clinics. I got involved with some of the faculty and things like that. And I was so grateful to have great mentors, both residents and orthodontic faculty. And so I was just kind of chatting with them because as a first gen everything, I didn't really have anyone in my family or hometown to lean back on. So I really leaned on them to help guide me through the process. So I trusted them. They knew what I was like as a student, so they could give me some really personalized information. And so they basically helped me put together a timeline. And I'm very grateful because of my experience as a person on the admissions committee for dental school. I kind of had the inside scoop on the other side of it. And so that definitely helped me get the right mindset when putting my application together and creating that timeline.
So timeline. So guys, if you're listening, you realize it's you got to be structured and you've got to be prepared for yourself, preparing for your application.
Yeah.
Prepare to be prepared, meaning, it's probably going to be about 1.5 years out before you graduate, I would say. And you're going to have certain targets along that timeline. One of the most important parts, of course, is the letters of recommendation and getting them, requesting those pretty early. So let's talk about the number of schools, because there are different ortho programs. Some are hospital-based, some are school-based. There are even some that are community center based as well, depending on what part of the country that you're in. So let's talk a little bit about the number of schools that you applied to and why those schools, why you selected those schools for your list.
Okay, so if I'm going to speak very candidly, I honestly just wanted to apply to 5 schools, and I only ended up ranking 5 schools. But my mentor said, hey, that's not a good idea because it's just a numbers game, essentially. You can be the best applicant, but if you only apply to 5 schools and then you only get 3 interviews, your ranking list and you'll be locked in more tightly than as opposed to if you had more options. And so I said, okay. I'll apply. I applied to 13 schools. And my decision to apply to those schools came through, one, the recommendations of the people in the profession that I respected and residents that went through the same process. And so after I got their recommendations, then I went through with a fine-tooth comb and looked at their website, talked to the residents, got the inside scoop, and that's how I kind of narrowed down my list. And I did it based off of location, curriculum, emphasis on research, and of course, tuition. So that's how I got my list together with the help of a village, essentially.
Yes, it takes a village. Even in ortho, it takes a village
Yes.
of folks to get you prepared. So location, curriculum, research, and what was the last one?
Tuition,
and
funding opportunities.
And tuition.
Yeah, you cannot forget that.
No, you can't. That's the elephant in the room, literally, tuition, because there are programs that pay you and there are programs that you pay them.
Mm-hmm. And the cost of living in that area.
That's right. So you got your schools. Looks like you applied. You say you started with 5, mm-hmm. ended up with 13. How did that pan out for you as far as your interviews? Let's talk a little bit about your interviews. The number of schools that you got invitations for, what the interview day was like, any questions maybe pertaining to ortho only type of questions that you would get as an ortho resident. I don't know if they snuck in that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I was kind of in a unique position this year where everything was virtual. So I had the ability to say yes more than maybe historically people could have. So I could do a social in Washington and the next day go to an interview in Michigan, no problem. And so everything being virtual also afforded me the opportunity to apply to more schools than I would have originally thought to, because I don't have to accommodate for traveling expenses, lodging, all of those things. So the actual interview day and the socials, it was very different. It was unprecedented, like everything was that past year. And so I, as an applicant, wanted to be very tuned into the amount of effort that they put in being flexible and being accommodating during these times, because being innovative and being flexible is something that's really important to me in a program, because I'm going to be there that's going to be my home for the X amount of years. And I want to be in a program that can accommodate and flex and adapt to changes and handle them well. Because I knew what it was like as a person on the admissions committee and the work and the intention that it took to do that for our applicants. And so I was hyper aware and hyper focused on that effort on the other way. And so through the interview process, I interviewed at 8 schools. And they were all very different. All of their socials were very different. All of the interview formatting was very different. And I was just essentially taking mental notes and seeing if I vibed with that. And if I didn't, it was very difficult because you didn't get to meet anyone. So you had to kind of do the vibe check virtually. And surprisingly, I feel like it still was enough to make an educated decision, even though I couldn't see the facilities and meet the people. But yeah, everything being virtual was very different.
Yeah, and again, it does have a little bit of an impact when it comes to being able to start ranking your programs. And I mean, even though you'll have a foundation, there's certain things that you already know why this program or why that program. But usually the interview day and the social that you talk about as well is usually very helpful for you as a candidate, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to kind of sift through and say, yes, but socially I didn't didn't vibe with the residents, or I didn't like this, or I really like that, So any particular questions on your interviews that were there some that were commonplace of the 8, and then what were the ones that were totally different? Because like you said, you have 8 different programs, the formats, how they did their interviews, was different. So I assume that there probably was some different questions as well. What were some of those questions?
Yeah, so we always had the uniform, like why this school, why ortho, blah, blah, blah. But there was one program where the program director came on, and the first thing he asked me was, okay, tell me about our curriculum. Right? And so the day before they did social, they did a whole presentation. They expected you to pay attention. They expected you to do your research. I just was not expecting it. Usually it was the other way around, them telling me about the curriculum. And so just for that to be the first question off the gate, and it's like a group, it's like not just him, it's the program director, the research, and then me. And they're just looking at me, okay, tell us about our curriculum. I was like, oh, that was the first. And that was the only time that someone's ever asked me that. And I was able to, tell them about their curriculum. Because then, let's be real, there are a lot of similarities amongst almost all the schools. So if you pay any attention, you'd be able to give them something. Right. But it completely caught me off guard. And that was like the one question of all the days that just took me off guard. And no one's ever done that since. So maybe I don't. So do your research and actually remember your research and be able to say it back.
That's right. That program that you're at for that day is
everything.
It's everything. It's everything. Even if you don't get the information about the curriculum on a social, if you know residents that are there, you got to ask them, take your notes, and then the research that you do online as well.
Have to do the work.
Yeah, that's important. You got to do your research. Any other questions that were from other programs that kind of stood out as kind of not awkward, but maybe that? Well,
there was an awkward. So, and this is another one, but I knew it was coming because everyone always told me. It doesn't matter. It's not program specific, but they'll say, okay, there's several students from UNC applying to this program. Like, why should we choose you? Mm-hmm. Or if you could only choose one other person, because they're trying to figure out, they don't know us, they're trying to figure out compatibility. So like, okay, we want 2 UNC people, but we don't know which 2. So they'll straight up ask you, if you could choose one other person to be your classmate here, who would you choose and why? And so navigating that question is it's hard, it's awkward. And I knew it coming in that they were going to ask. And that wasn't just for one school, several programs asked that. Because it was a historic year where there were so many applicants because people could apply to more schools. People didn't want to enter the workforce straight out of residency or straight out of dental school because we didn't know what the workforce was going to look like during COVID. And so people were flocking to residencies. And so they had so many people from each school. So they had to ask that question.
Yeah. Well, those are good. I have heard that before. And some programs asking, something very similar as to, why are you versus this other person, this other candidate, and the other candidate will be in the room. Right.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
And we try not to do that even at UNC, dental school, whatever, from an admission standpoint, because I don't know, like, what do you want to prove?
Well, it's a test. It's a test. Is Dr. B going to throw this other candidate underneath the bus, or is she going to be able to articulate camaraderie and collaboration with this individual, or just say, well, I really can't speak on this individual. I can only speak on myself, right? Take the high road and just kind of eliminate that other person.
Schools, some of them wouldn't let you. They're like, yeah, that's very nice, but we need a name. And I was like, okay,
we need a name.
And I try to be like politically correct. I try to say, it's not my decision to make, but they're like, at the end of the day. And for me as an applicant, I kind of just felt that was kind of telling of a program, because I don't want to be at a program that wants me to sweat. Right? Like, I want to be at a program that has this familiar atmosphere, that's that emphasizes camaraderie.
Yeah.
And so I judge a program based off the questions that they ask me, because I know what it's like to be on the other side and how telling what your intentions are by asking these specific questions. So me personally, I was not a fan, but I know what the purpose of that was. But I feel like there were other ways to get that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you had your interviews, you had 8 of those interviews, which is great. Congratulations. That's cool. But now in late November, you had to sift through all of those 8 interviews, sift through all of those notes, sift through all the questions, the things that you liked, you didn't like, and you had to come up with a list, a rank list. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you went about doing and creating your rank list after those interviews.
Yeah, so there were some that I straight up didn't put on. So if you started my interview 30 minutes late, or if it was very chaotic and unprofessional, I automatically just did not rank you, because you knew this day was coming. We all knew this day was coming. I know technological things happen, but even in in-person interviews, being professional, being well prepared is important to me as a person entering that program. So based off of that stuff, I straight up didn't rank some programs. Based off of how the social went with some of the residents, I mean, I was at some of these socials virtually where there were some sus things happening, and I was like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this culture.
Right? Virtually? How can you
virtual happy hours or virtual whatever? And like, I know it's like you're trying to get let loose, but even as someone on the admissions committee, when you do socials, you know, at the end of the day, you're always being watched. Everything is intentional, even if it's just for fun. But there was some where there's like a complete lack of professionalism, which for some people, maybe that's their thing. Like they don't want it. They just want to let loose. But for me, I don't do well with chaotic energy. So there were some programs where I was like, okay, this is too much. Like, I want no parts of this. Yeah. So that I was able to rule out some people just from the interview alone. Maybe on paper, I was really feeling them. And then the interview happened and I was like, no, especially when I asked everyone about diversity. I asked each program diversity questions, because as an African-American, yes, I'm going to your program and I'm choosing the program, but I don't have a say in the environment that I'm in. And I'm committing years of my life to be in this environment, time
and money,
energy, opportunity. So yes, I'm here for an education, but if I'm going to have this stress of being in that environment due to something I can't control, like the color of my skin, then I want out. So if I ask you a diversity question and your response is like, well, we're diverse because we, invited you and other African Americans to an interview, then that's not good enough for me. And you're not going to be ranked on my list. So if you give me like a boxed answer or a terrible answer, you weren't expecting that, or like referred me to someone else to answer that diversity question, then I'm not going to take you seriously. And I asked every single interviewer from each school, each day, a diversity question. And that was very telling for me. So based off of how they handled that also affected how I ranked the schools on my list. And financing, scholarship opportunities, things like that, that was also a factor in my list. Geography, where I wanted to be, and also the input from other residents that went there. Because the key is, I always tell people, and people have always told me, you always ask the third year or the senior residents, because they're on their way out. Yeah. So they don't really feel the same allegiance as someone who's like stuck in it and has to deal with the consequences. So ask the people that are about to be on their way out. They've seen it through and through. They'll tell you very candidly what their opinion is. And so I always ask them. And so sometimes their real raw opinion also swayed me as well. Gotcha.
Well, those are some good reasons to rank or not rank a program. And guys, and guys and gals that are listening, keep in mind, that's why you have to pay attention at everything, all parts of the interviews, social hour included, right? Social hour included. And another reason why you have to have questions as part of your interview, you have to ask them questions. Like you mentioned, you ask questions about diversity and whether or not and how they answered that question was a ranking factor for you as to where you're going to be placing those schools. So
exactly. Yeah. And I always tell people, as much as it's them interviewing you, you are interviewing them. right?
Yes.
Don't come in the
Yes.
mindset like, oh, I have to say whatever I have to say to get in. Because let's say you schmooze them and you get in, but that's not who you are authentically. If you aren't compatible with that program, now you're stuck. So I say you be authentic to yourself and you live in your truth, what's important to you, but you also interviewed them. So, and I know it's scary for people if they're like, I don't know if I'll get in or da-da-da, but at the end of the day, like, it's a commitment, it's a relationship, it's a two-way street. So it can't just be lopsided.
Sounds good. So some people may know, some people probably do not know. Where will you be taking your talents to? Let me get the drum roll here.
I will be a triple Tar Heel at UNC. So I'm back at it again, UNC Orthodontics.
Yes, 3 times the charm. UNC, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's nice. And you've got a couple of extra weeks because you said you guys don't start until August, which is great, which is nice. So you touched upon it a little bit, and this is the segment of the episode that people really like. And guys, if you're getting some value and liking what you hear, please hit the like button down below, and also write a comment as well, and telling us what you like so far about what you've heard and what Dr. Beatrice is sharing about her journey to ortho. And I'm sure you're going to like this part of the episode too, where we start talking about tips and advice. Tips and advice. And she's got so many. So let's start. Tips and advice. Let's go. We got our pen and paper ready.
All
let's
right.
go.
So I've always believed there's no point in reinventing the wheel. And I always know what I know, and I always try to understand that there's a lot of things that I don't know. And so I'm never afraid to ask for help. I'm the first person in my family doing this. And I think the biggest thing you can do is be an advocate for yourself. Because if you want to advocate for yourself, I mean, how can you expect anyone else?
So give us an example of that. Of you advocating for yourself as it relates to applying. As an applicant.
Yeah. So even just saying, hey, just getting your list together, getting your timeline together. If you know that you are confused and you just don't want to Google everything because things are misleading, being able to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, or I have some questions about that, and reach out for help and say, hey, I would appreciate your guidance throughout this process. That's one thing you can do. In regards to like putting your application together, think about your personal statement, right? You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. You want to make sure that you're creating this comprehensive profile. And I always tell people, especially someone on the admissions committee, it's not one thing that'll make or break you. So you have to be very intentional about how you put together your application. You don't want 3 letters of recommendation saying the same thing. You don't want 3 science professors or 3 dentists saying the same thing about you. You need to make sure you're creating a comprehensive profile. So if your personal statement is tied to community service, if it's tied to access to care, if it's tied to science, if it's tied to research, then make sure that you have those corresponding letters of rec. So I had a corresponding letter of rec from someone who I did my research with since my senior honors thesis. I've had some for an orthodontist who also deals with access to care issues, someone in academia, someone in the community. So make sure you're doing something that's well-rounded, because you don't want everyone saying the same thing, because that's a missed opportunity to kind of showcase how multifaceted you are.
Right. And we all know we do have levels to our own level of excellence, right? You know, there's different areas that make all of us excellent. So you want to amplify and advocate for yourself by amplifying those things as well. What else? And
speaking of letters of rec, that can be the most stressful thing, because that's one thing that's out of your hands. 1, you don't know what they're going to say. 2, you're not too sure when they're going to turn it in. And there's a lot of programs where you need your complete application, including letters of rec by deadline, not just your stuff. They need everything. So if you have a professor or someone holding you up, that could block your blessing. So make sure that you reach out. The timeline is so important. I reached out before the application cycle even started. I said, hello, I'm applying to ortho. As you may or may not know, here's my resume. This is the timeline. This is the anticipated date of my submission. Always make it 2 weeks earlier. So that way, if they mess up or forget, it's fine. And so I always have this conversation in person first, because I would hope that you would have a rapport with the person that you're asking to write your letter of rec for. So you have a conversation saying like, hey, I'm interested in applying for ortho. Like, would you do me the honor of writing my letter of rec? They're like, yeah, send me the stuff. So that's when you send this email with your resume, a draft of your personal statement, so that they can also make those ties. And then also an expected timeline. So if you say, I always tell them that the portal opens on X date. I plan on submitting by X date. I would love to have your submission by X date. There's no confusion. Transparency is the easiest thing. You send it months in advance, no confusion. And you continue that email thread. Hey, just wanted to follow up when the first portal opened. Hey, just want to follow up, just submit it. And that way you're not stressed about it. You're not waiting till last minute. It's handled and it's out of your hands. And then you give yourself that grace period where if they're behind, you're still okay. You're still within the deadline. I think letters of recommendations is what gets a lot of people stressed, gets them hung up. And you also have to remember, if you're applying from a big school, you might not be the only person that person's writing for. So the programs have direct comparison on what your letter looks like and that other person looks like. So make sure you have a good relationship with them, because if you don't, your classmates' letter is going to look a lot better. So be very intentional about the people that you choose, and think about that comprehensive profile in regards to letters of rec. And in regards to timeline, I did this for my dental school application, and I also did it for residency. I went ahead and asked someone who already applied, hey, can you just send me the application? It's not open yet, but there's a PDF. That way I could have my responses pre-prepared. So there's prompts that you can have pre-prepared. There's like the minutia of like, you're basically inputting your whole CV into the thing, but making sure that you know the character count, because that's what gets a lot of people is they get started and they type and they realize, oh, there's a character count, and how do I make this sound right in this character count? So I went ahead and prepared all of that. That's what takes the longest.
Yeah.
And so I got a mentor, or got someone to just, or you can probably find it online, a blank, or if they feel comfortable sharing their stuff, the application. So you have all of that information prepared. You just copy, paste, don't sweat it. And of course, a personal statement. We want to make sure that you have several eyes on it. People in the profession, people outside of the profession, family members that know you. Like my younger sister, she reads all of my stuff. She's like basically my PR person. And she works for a publishing company in New York, so I feel comfortable having her take a look at my stuff. But having several people take a look at it, but also taking everything with a grain of salt, because not everyone has an opinion, and they might not all be right for you. So taking it with a grain of salt, and making sure your vision and what you want, it still stands true. Yeah. And that's in regards to preparation. Interview day, again, it's different because of Zoom. But I will say something that helped me stand out, if you're still going to be virtual, is good lighting. Every single place that I went to, I had a professor that let me borrow his ring light, and every single place that I went to talked about how, like, I had the best lighting, like somehow the lighting made my voice clearer and I looked like I was in HD. Honey, it was just a ring light. But that literally, if you're sitting at a group event, like group thing, and everyone's on the screen, like you immediately stand out because you have better lighting. And it's something as simple as that. Now in person, it's a little bit different. So I can't really speak to that, but through the Zoom interviews, having good lighting was so important, and doing your research prior, because you might get a question like the question that I got.
You will get that question. You will get that question about our program, or something similar like, well, what do you like about our curriculum?
Yeah, exactly.
And you will need to know about the curriculum before you can tell them what you like about it, right?
Yeah, and they'll be able to parse through and see what's BS and what is actually genuine. So make sure that you're always being genuine. And something that I did that helped me during the interviews is, if I had a great conversation with the interviewer, something that was very unique to our conversation, I would write it down, because I would use that as a talking point for my follow-up thank you email or thank you card. And so that would help them remember me, and that would also show that I valued our time together. And I would write thank you cards to everyone, the person that helped set up the interview, like that point person that got you on the schedule, whatever. I made sure I said thank you to everyone, and I make sure it was super personalized to the impact they had on me on my day, not some generic thanks, I like your program, but making it very intentional. So by taking those notes during the interview, you'll remember what was unique and what was important, and then you can just put that in your thank you card.
Wow, you guys heard it here, all these tips and all these strategies. If you didn't hear it, you need to press rewind and go back and listen to it again. Because doctors dropped some dimes and dropped some diamonds on us with regards to those tips and strategies. What kind of projects are you working on or thinking about working on as you transition into your residency? Any thoughts about what you're going to be doing and was UNC is a 2-year or 3-year program?
3-year program.
3-year program. So projects that you currently are working on that you're going to be transitioning and still being active in as an ortho resident, and any thoughts as to life after residency?
Yeah, so while I was in dental school, a classmate and we started the first LGBT clinic in the state of North Carolina called the Pride Clinic. And so we were founding members for that, and we got grants for that and all that jazz. And so that has been my baby. And that was also a motivating factor for me to stay so that I could come back and be an attending, work on more grant opportunities for that. So the Pride Clinic is dear to my heart because I am a product of advocacy, right? And so if I can use my privilege in any way that I have as, as a straight cis woman to help someone else, then I want to use my privilege in a good way. And so the Pride Clinic is my baby. We provide free care. It's a nonprofit clinic for people in the community. In regards to other projects, so we have to do a research project for residency. And so I've already started working on my IRBs for that, so that when I start in August, I can hit the ground running and not worry about that till the end. And so that's going. And something else that I'm passionate about is international work. So when my dad found out that I was going to be a dentist, he actually set aside land in Ghana for us to start the clinics. And so,
wow, nice.
So yeah, fun fact, my dad's uncle is the current president of Ghana. So we work on doing a lot of infrastructural work in the country. And my dad goes back every couple of months to see those projects, building projects through. And so I've been working with getting in touch with like the Ghana Dental Association and the dental schools there to kind of create this bridge between UNC or American schools and Ghana. And so before I started dental school, we did our first like health fair in our community. And we were able to provide so much resources and care for people in our community. So I'm just hoping to get a clinic going in Ghana and do some international work there and work with other doctors and dentists and assistants and dental students to provide an opportunity for them to learn, provide care, and help the population there. And then also provides opportunity for the dental students in Ghana to get that experience and have job opportunities and things like that. So that's a big picture goal for me that I've been working on and that's been in the works. But, COVID kind of threw a wrench in some things, but, we'll get it going.
But you can still plan and be strategic and come up with a battle plan to get it done. And speaking of such, I have a mentee who's your classmate from Howard. He also graduated this year. He also has some Ghanaian roots. Am I saying it right?
Ghanaian or Ghanaian, yeah.
Yeah, he's got some roots in Ghana and actually has a couple projects that he's working on. So I need to get you guys linked up.
Yeah, I'm the only person from Ghana in my class, or I thought in my school at the time. So definitely linking up with other people from Ghana would be good. Yeah,
definitely, because there's lots of synergy and energy, and like you said, you don't have to create the wheel all over. If it's already spinning, or if other people are spinning it, just help them spin it, right?
Yeah.
So as we close out, we want to know a little bit more about the best way to get in contact with you. If other people who are listening and watching want to help you with your projects and some of the things that you're working on, or just want to talk to you more about your journey to ortho, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram like you found me, _BEA Williams. That's my Instagram handle. Or you can shoot me an email. I have a Gmail. It's beawilliams94@gmail.com. So if you want to chat, if you have any questions, I'm always open to, especially like mentorship and paying it forward any way that I can.
Awesome. So we'll definitely, those are posted. Where are they at? They're right over here. You'll see, it's right there. You'll see. You can get in contact with Dr. Beatrice. She'll give you some more information about her journey to ortho and all things related to some of the amazing things that she's working on. In addition to having to do research for her ortho residency as well. So guys, that's it for today. Thanks so much. Make sure you check out these next videos right here. And hopefully these will be helpful for you as well. And Dr. Williams, hey, thanks so much. Congratulations. Welcome to Ortho. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.